Hello, my name is Tessa Warren, and I will be presenting on juvenile delinquency. What qualifies as delinquency? It's defined as any crime committed by a person aged 17 or younger. This includes status offenses. Factors in deviant behavior include poor socialization, low socioeconomic status, family dysfunction, and cognitive and learning disabilities. Many juvenile delinquents are placed in special education programs labeled as emotionally disturbed, mentally retarded, or learning disabled. In terms of both intelligence and academic achievement combined, juvenile delinquents have the greatest similarity to the learning disabled compared to mentally retarded or emotionally disturbed. Because of this misconception, many adolescents are forced into educational programs that are not appropriate for their learning style. From an early age, these kids can develop a feeling of inadequacy and thus planting the seed of low self-esteem and misbehavior. 3% commit juvenile offenses each year. Now, that may not seem like a significant amount. However, let's look at it from our state of Florida. There are 1.83 million youth in our state of Florida. That is 50,000 adolescents in the justice system per year. That is 50,000 kids and teens being funneled into the cycle of crime and being stripped of an equal opportunity for education and growth. My interview was with Miss Deborah Chenoweth. She's a counselor at Riverdale Country School. She is not a social worker, however, she's a licensed mental health counselor. She works primarily with students K through 12 who have mental disabilities, criminal history, or difficulty adjusting in the mainstream school system. Most of the students have been sent there by the court after expulsion from school or committing crimes. To determine the needs of the client, you would first meet individually and conduct a background check and a psychosocial. You would also observe how they present themselves, such as their hygiene, clothing, and their physical state. You also assess for any mental illness and determine where they are developmentally. And also it's important to consider their own verbal history, so an explanation from them as to why they are there and what they have done, or what has been done unto them. After conducting a needs assessment based on their financial, medical, or psychological state, you must write out a plan to address all issues in order of importance. Now, this is where Maslow's hierarchy comes into play, because the first priority of the counselor is always to make sure that the student is safe and not facing any danger. Now, for example, if a student is mentally ill and is also homeless, you would address the homelessness issue first because that's directly affecting them in the moment. Riverdale Country School puts a heavy focus on family involvement in their treatment of their students. There's a population of 130 students at the school, and a total of 845 calls were made to their families in the month of October for this year. This number accounts for scheduled weekly phone calls, as well as calls made whenever a student shows signs of distress, acts out, or achieves academically. A typical case for a counselor at Riverdale doesn't exist necessarily, because every student is unique. They are all battling their own issues, and they're all there for different reasons. The one uniting factor in all of their lives is that they all want to be understood. Success as a counselor is not a concept that is easily measurable. Initial goals are set so that they can move past the current crisis. It's always going to be a back and forth. However, they will take steps in the right direction and then fall behind. That's what makes this a constant progression. What's important is that they make efforts to improve their situation. So remember that success is not an end or an accomplishment, but a constant progression. Juvenile populations are inherently challenging. A part of being an adolescent is having difficulty adjusting and fitting in. Complicate that with any form of abuse, poverty, or hardship, it can seem impossible to get through. Particularly difficult cases are suicidal teenagers, when they could really harm themselves or others. They are volatile people because they don't have a skill base, so they can't cope with whatever issues they are dealing with. And this is important to recognize in their students because this population is very impulsive and they act on feelings. As far as the counselor's work goes, what proves to be the most tedious and time-consuming is dealing with the government and agencies. You have to jump through hoops to get these kids any sort of help, and oftentimes they have crisis situations that need help immediately, and they don't receive it when they need it. Aid shouldn't be so easily available that it enables them. However, it should be more efficient. This line of work takes a great toll on your mental and emotional health, but the moment when you look into that child's eyes and see all that they've gained and how far they've come, when they've taken pride in themselves and they have optimism for their future, that's when you know that this is all worth it. A little bit about Riverdale Country School. It's owned by a private contractor, Behavioral Educational Services, from United Healthcare. United Healthcare provides all of its funding, and it primarily consists of inpatient psychiatric hospitals throughout the United States, but they decided to branch out and establish schools. So they only take in kids who have no other options and have severe cases. Success is determined by the students' attitude toward themselves and school. And this is a direct quote from the Riverdale website. "We will know that we are successful when our students come to school eager to achieve personal goals with hope for the future and faith in themselves and others." Some of the strengths of Riverdale Country School are that it serves its purpose of giving opportunities to adolescents to get reintegrated into regular schools more quickly. And it's not a form of punishment, but rather a place where you can get working again and where you can work towards your future. Also, it's a very small school, so the setting is very intimate, which gives it a sense of family and a much more positive environment. A part of their weakness is that it is owned by a big corporation, so the students don't receive much direct funding. And so their quality of academics and their learning environment could be improved. So would I want to work in this area? Absolutely. Social work is such a broad field, and I feel that we all have our own calling within it. My strongest passion is juvenile justice. I suppose that it does have a personal element to it in my life because my older brother was absent most of my childhood due to his delinquent behavior and becoming a part of the juvenile correctional system. And a lot of my friends, a lot of their lives have been drastically altered and honestly destroyed by what could have been so easily prevented or alleviated. I hope to one day change the lives of our misunderstood youth by understanding their unique thought process and all factors playing into their delinquent behavior, empathizing with their circumstance and their feelings, and equipping them with the knowledge and coping skills to prevent any future criminal behavior. It's imperative that we stand up for these kids whose voices are being stifled by the punitive and greedy hands of the correctional system.